Hey everybody, welcome back to Four Low Rocks, and thanks again for watching. Today we're in Ballarat, California with the San Diego Jeep Club for Joe, the president's birthday. There's about 8 or 9 or 10 of us Jeeps here locally. We all came out to camp at the Ballarat campground in the distance behind me. And last night we headed out, we did a very nice night run. We had a little bit of trouble on the trail with a popped tire, but we got that fixed and we got back to camp in time to have some good fireside stories, a little bit of chat before everybody turned in for the very long, blustery night. This morning, I think we're going to head out to the Barker Ranch to see where the Manson family carried out many of their dastardly plans during the time that they were in action in the 1970s. And then in the afternoon, maybe head back up the same trail we went up last night, up to the snow level, and see what else we might find up in that area. So stick with us. I hope you enjoy the ride, and we'll be right back after this. Ballarat, California is located literally in the middle of nowhere. It is northeast of Trona in the Searles Valley, and at one time was a small bustling supply town for the many mining operations in the area. The founder, George Riggins from Australia, proposed naming the town after Ballarat, Victoria in Australia in 1897. Today it is known as a ghost town and not much remains of the original settlement. George runs the general store and might offer you something to drink when you visit to pay the camping fees. The camp is quite often used for off-roaders, horseback riders, and hikers heading into the Panamint and Death Valley areas to explore the many mines and trails in the area. It is even rumored that Charles Manson and his family spent some time in this town during their reign of terror, and his name can be found scratched into the wood in the still-standing jailhouse. The old Dodge truck on the property is also rumored to have belonged to him, and his followers are thought to have painted the stars in the interior of the truck's cabin. To the Golar Wash Trail started with a long 14-mile drive along a mostly improved road that led the group by a very large active mining operation before becoming less and less maintained as we made the initial climb into the mountains. But once we got on the trail, what a treat we found. Huge canyon walls with many colorful formations, wildlife, and even natural springs. This trail, while not hugely technical, is one not to be missed.
I'm not sure, but I would assume there's lots of coyotes up here. Of course, now that I'm traversing it, we could change it to Fox or Foxy.
Something that really interested me on these trails was that in the dry, arid landscape, the trails would often become quite wet and muddy as they are fed by natural springs in some of the areas. It wasn't uncommon to see the canyon walls glistening with a damp sheen as water trickled out of the interiors of the rock formations. The flora and fauna in the area feed naturally off of these springs.
Honk honk in the house. That is a cool nickname, I gotta tell you.
Except if you're only going to do TNK, people might think it's Tink Tink.
Yeah, that's not right. Oh, I like Tink Tink. Tink Tink. How about Tonk? That's 2. Mike, let me know when you made it up that obstacle. Yep, 4. Looks like Robert just cleared. There's 4 more chiefs. Should we stay over? Yeah, I'm barely crawling up here.
Everyone just keep the Jeep behind you in your rear view mirror. We're getting a little spread out.
Last time Kim and I were here, this little cave or rock slide wasn't here. They've had a few earthquakes up in this area. Not real big ones, but enough to sink some of these rocks off. Yeah, I mean, some of these sides look a little unstable, huh? Yeah, you don't want to have a big earthquake right now. It's also erosion, guys. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's collecting huge. There's a big watershed coming off of these hills and down into these canyons. What are we looking at, Robert? There's a cable going across the canyon. Right, so right above me and Mark's Jeep is the first cable system that they use to transport their ore down to the ground. At the end of the cable, you can see their little, whatever they call those things to separate the gold from the dirt. Wash plant.
Right behind you.
Copy that. You guys park and feel free to come up and explore all of these cabins. They are fairly clean.
It often amazes me what you can find out here in these long-lost locations. Old camps and cabins, mining equipment, appliances, and even road graders and old trucks. It seems like when production in the mine started to wane, it was common to just abandon most, if not everything, when moving on to another mine. One has to wonder if that was a cost-saving measure. In other words, was it cheaper to just leave it behind, or was it a necessity as the mining operation went bankrupt? At this location, The climb up to the Lotus mine was a very cool run up the hill, bypassing many items that were left behind, and where we stopped for a lunch break. The ore from this mine was further trucked up the hillside to a cable car system at the peak, and then the ore was transported down the other side of the rise to the wash station in the canyon.
Lima Charlie.
After our lunch break, we all headed back down the hill from the Lotus mine and turned right to return to the Golar Wash Trail to make the short trek to Barker Ranch. Barker Ranch was, for a short period of time, the base of operations for the Manson family. It was the site where they were captured before spending time in prison. The site remains in an advanced state of decay today, but you can still check out the layout of the property and learn a little history.
So everyone, we have arrived at the famous Barker Ranch off Golar Wash in California here. This is the place where the Charles Manson family hung out for a period of time in the late 60s while they carried out their dastardly deeds and while Charles Manson tried to convince his followers that he was some godlike deity. There's not much left, as you can see from the ruins, but it's an interesting trip. Let's take a little hike back here along the trail and check out their water catch basin system. This is where they would catch rain runoff as it came down the hill here, and they would store it. And they had plumbing going from here down to each of the cabins down below so that they had natural gravity pressure feeding the cabins.
After Barker Ranch, we then headed deeper into Death Valley to visit the memorial to Carl Mengel, a man credited with starting many of the mining claims in the area. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and feel free to leave a comment below. And if you haven't already done so, please click that subscribe button, as it means a lot to me and it helps to support the channel. Lastly, please follow Four Low Rocks on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Until next time, happy wheeling!